6 years ago, my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, and I left Canada and decided to just show up in this random, unfamiliar Southeastern European country known as Serbia. And we are still here to this day. We fell in love with it and we decided to live here. Now, I've talked to a lot of people on the internet and just in person about why it's so great to live here and why we chose to build our lives here. But what I don't talk about very much is why it sucks to live here. The reasons why people leave this country, the things that are just so difficult or wrong with everyday life here, which causes the problem. Something that I've learned over these past years is that nowhere on earth is perfect. And all of the problems we experience over here, we wouldn't experience in Canada. That being said, there's a lot of problems we don't experience here that we would in Canada. So everything kind of evens itself out at the end of the day. But I really wanted to sit here and just make a video about the things that make living in Serbia difficult. Because if you are considering moving here yourself, I hope you can listen to this and not necessarily reconsider, just give it some more thought and make sure you're ready for these things that I'm about to talk about. So we're going to start off in this video a little bit more casual, and we're going to get into some bigger problems that are the reasons what are making all of the locals get out and go somewhere like North America or Western Europe. So the first thing that I want to talk about in this video is time and the Serbian clock. So I've actually talked about this in a positive light quite a few times. But here's the thing about living in Serbia. If you talk to someone and you're talking about when you're going to get together, when they're going to drop something off, when they're going to show up, time does not apply. That person might tell you maybe 15 minutes. If they say that, you can expect it's going to be about 45. If somebody says, I'll show up sometime this week, you can expect them to show up sometime this year. Nothing is the way it seems when it comes to time. Everyone here kind of just runs on their own clocks and doesn't really have that much concern for other people's time, which on one hand, it's really great because, you know, they're just living life, doing their thing, and they're not bound to any schedule. But at the same time, it's really frustrating when you're trying to make appointments or trying to plan out your day and every single person is either late or early, but at the end of the day, nothing is ever on time in Serbia, and it's infuriating. Now, the time is something that I think you can kind of just get used to and start to understand that 15 means 45 and 1 means 3. I think the 3 times multiplier rule is a good general standard when it comes to Serbia. But something that you can't really get used to because it's a necessity of life is driving in Serbia. Now, I actually really started driving in Serbia. I hadn't done all that much driving in Canada. So while some people might sit here and tell you it's so hard to drive, the roads, this and that, most of my driving experience is actually in Serbia. So it's not really about what happens when you get in your car behind the wheel. Now, there are some crazy drivers, but, I think that's probably the case anywhere, so I don't really care to talk about that. But driving isn't just about driving a car. It's about owning a car as well. And oh boy, do I hate owning a car in Serbia. Here's the thing, from what I'm used to, for example, if I was trying to sell something in Canada, let's say I'm trying to sell a car, what I would do is I would try to make sure that car is in perfect shape before the next owner gets it. I see that as a common courtesy thing. And honestly, I think that is the general standard in North America. In Serbia, people sell cars because they're pieces of crap that are about to fall apart. If you buy a car that's not brand new in this country, you can assume there's about an 80% chance it's a piece of crap. And it is going to break in 100 different ways that you didn't even know were possible. And then on the topic of buying a brand new car, good luck with that, because if you want to buy any brand new car in Serbia, it's going to run you probably minimum 30,000 euros because there are a lot of import taxes and other reasons that I'm not aware of that new cars here are so expensive. And along with that, there's not really any financing. So what happens for the most part is that everyone drives a car that's about 15 to 20 years old. They're all pieces of crap, and they're all an inch away from disaster. And if that's the situation you're in and you need to own a car, it can absolutely eat up your life having to deal with these various mechanics and getting it registered and this and that. And it's just a horrible experience from start to finish. owning a car in Serbia is not fun, and it's also really, really expensive. Now, my solution to that is that I just drive a 1984 Volkswagen Golf Mark II. It does the job. It takes me from A to B. If the entire thing breaks, I can get a new one for about 900 euros. And I've kind of solved the problem with that. That being said, I don't want to be taking my family somewhere in a car that doesn't have airbags. And even when you start to look into some cheaper cars that are about 4,000 euros, you can still run into these massive issues with them. And when you're buying them off someone who's only selling it because it's a piece of crap, what are you waiting for? It's going to be bad. Now, driving is one thing, and driving is kind of a necessity of life. That being said, there's also things that you enjoy in life and things that you want to do and things that you want to see. And that brings me into my next thing about why I hate living in Serbia, and that is garbage and pollution. So if you look, first things first, let's just use some clear numbers. If you look at cities like Belgrade, Novi Sad, and Niš on an air quality map, they are going to be aligned with that of cities like Delhi, Mumbai, places in Bangladesh, places in Pakistan, where they just don't care. We are in Europe. We're in a European country, and we have some of the pollution that you would expect to see in more poor countries in regions like Asia and Africa. It is horrible. Now, I smoke personally, so I can't really complain that much about air quality. That being said, what I can complain about is the garbage. So here's the thing. There is some beautiful untouched nature and just well-kept nature in Serbia. We love to go down to the National Park Tara every year. It is absolutely beautiful there at Lake Peručac. It's just some of the most beautiful nature I've ever seen in my life. That being said, if you just go around Serbia, go to random spots where people live, random rivers, canals, and stuff like that, there is one guarantee that I have for you, and that is garbage. There is a segment of people here, and I don't know who they are or why they do this, but they will throw anything and everything. You finish a pack of cigarettes, throw the pack. You finish a Coca-Cola, throw the bottle. You just used a bag of fish food, throw it into the river. I don't know who is doing this, but I hate you. And I hope everybody else hates you too, because you are so disgustingly inconsiderate to destroy your own natural beauty for what? Because you didn't want to put an empty pack of cigarettes in your pocket? It is horrible, horrible. And the thing is, I don't think there's often people who are actually dealing with this. So while I understand that you do have some assholes in Canada, in America, and in Western Europe who also throw garbage all around, you at least have some people who are picking that garbage up. And here, I very rarely ever see city workers picking up garbage outside of direct city centers. So if you're a nature lover, while there is going to be nature for you in Serbia, if you just find some random river or something like that, you can expect it to look like someone has just emptied their garbage can all over it. And it makes me really sad because I love nature and Serbia is a beautiful country. Why are we ruining it, guys? Now, everything we've talked about so far, these are things which you kind of have to experience in your, let's say, enjoyment of life. You get a car, you're making plans with someone, you're trying to go and see some nature. But what about the things that actually just impact you like day to day while you're in your home, while you're just trying to do the things that you need to do in order to live legally in Serbia? There's a lot of bad stuff in there too. And the first thing that I want to start with in that general genre is bureaucracy. And I know that there are countries out there that have worse bureaucracy than Serbia. But if you're coming from a somewhat efficient country, it is going to be enough to make your brain explode. Every single person you go to, everywhere you go, they are going to request you get some piece of paper which you've never really heard of before, and it has no actual effect on the process whatsoever. Let me give you an example. I went to re-register my car pretty recently, and I go in and I say, hey, all right, here's all the papers that I need to register my car. Is it all good? The lady says, where's your proof of address? Like the piece of paper you get as a foreigner that shows where you live. I said, well, it's already on my traffic card, and I'm just here to get another sticker that says I've extended the registration. What do I need that for? She says, you need it. I said, okay, but for what? She looked at me as if I was a ghost. And I said, why do you need that? And she said, shrugged her shoulders. That's the thing that really kills me here. Now, I understand that bureaucracy is a problem all over the world and that there's stupid, slow processes, such as needing proof of address again. That is unfortunately normal around the world, stupid little things like that. But what I don't think is quite so normal, or at least I haven't seen it in other countries, is the lack of care. You will be dealing with people at these desks who you are entirely frustrated that your entire day is gone over things that don't really actually matter at the end of the day. And these people, they could care less. I have run into a few that are nice and helpful and good, but the general expectation that I have walking into one of these places is that I'm going to be pulling teeth just trying to get this person to do their job. So not only do we have such bad processes in place, but the people who are there to uphold them don't give a shit about them. And along with that, everyone kind of has their own rules. If you go to guy A, he might tell you need A, B, and C for papers. Guy B might tell you need A, B, C, D, E, F, G. The other guy might tell you just need A. And the thing is, whether or not it's going to get accepted really just depends on who you're talking to at that point in time. And it is enough to make you go insane. And the next thing that I want to talk about, which is something that really, really hurts every single person in this country, unfortunately, is the cost of living. Now, if you've thought about Serbia as a place to live, you might be thinking, man, Serbia is cheap. What are you talking about? I'm coming from Germany. I'm coming from America. Serbia is cheap to live. And you know what? I will give you that. Serbia is a pretty cheap place to survive in the sense that your necessities to just keep on going are low. There's not that much out here in the way of insurance and stuff like that. If you have a family of four, you can pay all of your bills with, 1,000 euros a month. I'm not saying you're going to be, living some luxury life, but you're going to be able to survive. Now, that being said, when I talk about the cost of living, I more mean the cost of goods. Anything in this country that you might want that they have in other countries is going to be more expensive. Let me start with something simple that I would say is less of an issue, and that is electronics. So if you want to buy a laptop here, for example, same laptop, $400 in the United States would probably be about $800 over here. Why? I don't know. Is it logistics? Is it import taxes? Is it this? Is it that? I don't know. Whether it is electronics or clothes or this exercise ball that I have right here for some reason that I don't use, or any of these things behind me, they're all more expensive in Serbia. Everything that you need to buy that is a consumer good in Serbia is going to cost you more money. That is why whenever people go to other countries and come back, they typically bring a full suitcase because everything is cheaper than it is in Serbia. And I myself work for an American company online, and thank God, that's great. But I look at the people who just live here and work normal jobs, and I don't know how they're able to make ends meet and how they're able to buy these things, unless you live a very basic life where you eat the necessities, bread, produce, and meat. And that's if those are the things that you need in life, you can get them for dirt cheap in Serbia and you're going to get really good quality stuff. But if you live a more modern life and you want these clothes and you want this electronics and you want this and you want that, you're going to have a really hard time in Serbia, at least with those things. And the final topic that I wanted to cover in this video, which I'm really going to try to, not make it difficult, is the political situation in Serbia. So it is interesting. And, I come from a country that has a very, very, let's say, divided political landscape, conservatives and liberals, and one side thinks the other side sucks, and this side thinks that side sucks. And, I didn't like that. That was one of the big things that made me want to get out of the West, is that whole polarized mentality, which you don't really have that in Serbia. You don't really have this strong divide between two groups of people. I mean, not like you do in Canada, at least. But what you do have is a really difficult and kind of depressing political situation where, you see people who have spent years and years going to school to learn a trade or a skill or anything like that, and they don't work. Why don't they work? Is it because they're lazy? No, they're not lazy at all. But in order to work at a lot of places, you need to be a member of the leading political party. And corruption is a thing that impacts all areas of life in Serbia. When I came here, I thought corruption was some, Godfather's movie, like, hey, take the cash under the table. That's not how corruption works, And as Serbians watching this, you're probably laughing. I mean, you know what it is. But for anyone from the West who's not really living in a country with such obvious corruption, that's not how corruption works. Corruption takes the form of gifts. Corruption takes the form of favors and helping a friend out. But the thing is, everything here is done with some other back end motive in mind. Let's say, for example, hiring. Are you hiring politically, or are you hiring because it's the best candidate for the job? Are you hiring because the guy gave you 3,000 euros as a gift, or are you hiring because he's the best person for the job? These are things that I personally, because I work online, luckily do not have to deal with. But, I have kids in this country, and my kids are going to grow up, and I have to look at what is it that they're going to grow up in, and am I happy with that? And the political landscape here is really, really backwards, and it seems like everyone is just kind of pushing and pushing and pushing and wanting something to change, but it doesn't really seem like anybody knows the solution. What's going to take Serbia and make it a place that you don't have these silly issues, really, that a European country in 2025 should not be dealing with, right? Now, again, just to wrap all of this up, we've been here for 6 years. I love Serbia. You know, it's my home, it's my culture. I think in Serbian at this point, but it's not all perfect. And if you're considering moving here, I would recommend you take these things into account before you make that move, and just make sure that it's something that you can deal with. So that's it. I know this was a bit of an unfortunate topic for a video. That being said, I will see you in the next one. I want to make another video, which is just really plainly talking about all of the beautiful things here and why it's such a great place to live. So anyways, if you want to see that one, please drop a comment, subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon.